In today's show, Scoot Henderson plays his best game of the preseason. Deni Avdija shows his value, and Toumani makes his case. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richman. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're going to talk about the Blazers' win over Radio Farm Ulm, the German squad that was in town to play one game very far away from home, a showdown with the Portland Trailblazers. Ulm, if you missed yesterday's show, has two 2025 likely first-round draft picks on the roster. I thought they were clearly the most intriguing and best players on the team for Ulm in this particular game. Scoot Henderson played his best game of preseason. I think Toumani Kamara made his case for hey, maybe put me in the starting lineup. And Deni Avdija had his best game one out of two, best game of the exhibition season. And I think Deni showed us some stuff that he's definitely going to bring to the table. We'll talk about all of those things in today's show. Scoot, Toumani, and Deni, as well as the two youngsters for Ulm, Noah Essengue and Ben Saraf. Let's start with Scoot. This was, without a doubt, full stop, no caveats, the best he's looked at preseason. The graph is going up. Game 1, not good at all. Game 2, better, but looks like a youngster. Game 3, Scoot looked good. Let's go with the obvious caveats here. This is a lower level of competition. And this particular version of the Blazers, who Anthony Simons did not play. Jeremy Grant was held out of this game for rest. Jabari Walker did not play as he deals with an ankle injury that he sustained at the end of Sunday's game against the Kings, trying to block a shot going out of bounds. So no Jabari Walker, no Anthony Simons, no Jeremy Grant, no Matisse Thybulle, who's yet to play in preseason with a knee injury. No Shaedon Sharpe, who's out for weeks. No Rob Williams, who's out for a little while and likely to miss the first part of the regular season. The Blazers are shorthanded. And this particular version of the Blazers, particularly one that wasn't going to play DeAndre Ayton in the second half, did not play, and wasn't going to play Deni Avdija very much in the second half. He played 6 minutes and then he left. This version of the Blazers, not much better than this Ulm team. Relatively even. But with that said, this is a lower level of competition than NBA teams. I want to put that caveat out here. I want to put that obvious caveat out here. But what you're supposed to do against teams that against a lower level of competition is play really well. Scoot shouldn't have to apologize for playing well against a team where he's more talented than many of the players on the floor. That's what he's supposed to do. I haven't done much box score stuff because I do think the box score's kind of meaningless in the preseason, but 23 points, 5 boards, 6 assists, 10 of 14 from the floor, no turnovers in 32 minutes. That's a good game. And even just watching it, you see Scoot look more like the thing that was promised. His shot chart is stuff of nerd legends. He takes 3 threes, and everything else is below the free throw line in the paint. Only one of them really outside of directly at the rim in the paint. He was living at the rim. He used his athleticism in ways that we haven't always seen. I think last year, the sort of common trope you might hear people say is Scoot gets to his spots, but I don't think that's necessarily true. I think Scoot has some trouble getting to spots that were truly advantageous last year. His athleticism didn't always show up in ways that really helped him, and some of it was his handle, and some of it was teams really sagging off him as a shooter. But in this game, Scoot got to where he wanted to go. He dunked in the half court. He had a run out dunk early, but on hammer one-handed hammer tomahawk with in transition. But he dunked in the half court, straight line drive, sees that he has an opening, gets to his strong right hand, straight line drive, dunk, get to swing on the rim a little bit and have some fun. Like, that is the Scoot that was promised, a dude who lives in the paint. You can't keep out of the paint. I thought he had a play in the first half where he had a little crossover that maybe got away from him a little bit, like getting to his right to left cross, but as soon as he corralled it, exploded forward, got a reverse to his right hands. He used his athleticism in half court. He used his athleticism in transition. He made smart, simple reads. Didn't try to do too much. But just like said, the defender in front of me can't stay in front of me. I'm going to get where I need to go, and if the help comes, I'm going to make the right plays, right reads, and I'm going to, we're going to get the shots we want. He threw a couple lobs, like including a memorable one to Toumani Camara. He dude was good. He was just really good in this game in the way that you want him to be. And, I think at the beginning of preseason, that first game was just so disheartening that it's like, what are they going to frickin' do with him? And then after this game, it's like, I am going to put my worries about Scoot to the side. My worries might be like, is Scoot, what is Scoot's ceiling, right? I think that remains really a major question for the Blazers. But after, he played a lot better against the Kings. I don't think he was great against Kings. I think, like I said, I think he just had a normal young person preseason game against the Kings. This game, it's like lower level of competition where the athleticism on the other side wasn't able to really hang. But I will say, like, one of the players that came in off the bench, Nelson Weideman, who came off the bench for Ulm. When he first checked in, he was guarding Delano Banton, and he was kind of giving Delano fits. Like, Delano's handle wasn't strong enough to get past dude with Nelson on the back of his jersey, Nelson Weideman, number 0. He couldn't get past him. When that same dude tried to body up Scoot and give him, that same type of ball pressure at 28, 30 feet, Scoot said, I'm not worried about that. Like, I can just get around you. I can go where I want to go. This was the Scoot that was promised. The one 3-pointer he made was a catch and shoot 3. He's at the top of the key. Toumani Camara's in the deep corner. He swings it back out. Scoot catches, shoots with confidence. It looks good. He missed 4 shots, right? One of them is an airball 3-pointer. The other one is he tries to challenge someone to the rim and gets blocked. Put him on the board, right? You're going to have struggles, and those are like struggles that are noticeable. Like, ooh, airball 3, that's not good. Ooh, athletic dude blocked to the rim, that's not good. But like, this was the guy that I thought we would see. He had a turnaround in the paint that I think he tries a lot, where he gets into the rim, gets like going towards the rim, stops, pivots, and shoots a fall away jump shot. This one crawled right over the rim, and this was in the first half, and it's like, I believe it was in the second quarter. It's like crawls right over the rim. And it's like, all right, that didn't look great, but it went in. And I'm willing, and I'm taking my notes like maybe not the best shot, but it goes in. You don't complain. But he played smart. He got shots he could make. He got to his right hand. He finished around the rim. The finishing, the driving, the getting where he wants to go, all there. The playmaking was there. He didn't turn the ball over. This was the game you wanted from Scoots. Again, the obvious caveats are there, right? The obvious caveats are there, and I think it's fair to like put them on the list, right? They should be there. But 23 and 6 dimes with no turnovers. That's what you're supposed to do when you're playing a lower level of competition. This was the Scoot that was promised. Really, really nice steps. Really important, nice, positive steps for Scoot Henderson. Let's see it keep going. I really want to see with Scoot what he looks like next to Anthony Simons. I think it was early in the preseason that it was like after game 1, it was like, yeah, I don't think Scoot should start because he doesn't look good, and there's no reason to, because him and Simons are probably a pretty bumpy pairing, pretty bad pairing on defense. I'll just say it. They're going to be a bad pairing on defense, but it's like, what is the point of this roster if you to hide Scoot Henderson and don't play him? What is the process for this team? But if when he struggled in that first game, and he struggled mightily, don't get it twisted, it was easier to start saying like, okay, well they should go with the other route. Now after this third game, it's like, I just want to see what him and Ant look like together. I think a listener asked before the preseason started, would it make sense to go bigger and like start Toumani at shooting guard? And I did a show about it. Should Scoot start? And it was like, yeah, I think that was a viable plan. I still think it's a viable plan on its face, but after Scoot has played a lot better and put together games like this, it's like, what are the questions that the franchise wants to have answered? What do they want to learn? And if Scoot's going to play well, I think he needs to be in the starting lineup. It's not clean. And if he's not in the starting lineup, but he plays well, he needs to be in the closing lineup, and that's going to have the same sort of challenges. I just want to see them together. I hope Anfernee Simons plays a little bit in the final preseason game so they can see them together, so we can kind of have some cleaner thoughts about that. If they have to figure it out in the regular season, so be it. Like, that's kind of the nature of this franchise right now, is like they're in the figuring it out stage. But I think Scoot was good enough in this game 3 of the exhibition season that you want to see more, not less of him. Without a doubt. You want to see more, not less of him, because this is a young man drafted number 3 overall, heading in the right direction. And it's why you don't like overreact to the beginning of preseason. You say that game was bad, but there are many, many more ahead. In the many, many more ahead, he has taken steps in the right direction. This was the best of the 3 games he's played, without a doubt. This was a good Scoot game, for sure. Okay, let's talk Deni. Let's talk Toumani. I think each of them showed what they can bring and why they are valuable to this franchise. We'll talk about both Toumani Camara and Deni Avdija in the second segment. Join me there, won't you? First, though, let's talk about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. They want to make it easier for you to enjoy a football Sunday. Say you're watching the NFL. You got a hunch. You're watching a game like, okay. I know how this is going to go. Well, if you want to make a live bet on a game, live wagers on NFL games, no better place to do it than America's #1 sportsbook, because the app has got live play-by-play and the latest stats all on the same page where you are placing your wagers. So you can be an up-to-the-second voter. You can have all of the information you could possibly need and more right there on the same page where you can place your wagers. Plus, if you're a first-time user, you get $200 of bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's $200 of bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet for new users to FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com. All right. Let's talk Deni. Let's talk Toumani. 2 wings for the Blazers that I think showed that they have real value. Toumani, this was probably his worst offensive game of the preseason. He just couldn't get shots to go around the rim. I felt like some of them were just like misses that he can make. Some of them he kind of got like, oh, I'm off balance and I'm pushing this shot up with either my right hand, even though I'm left-handed, or I'm like forcing a left-handed shot on the right side because I kind of got caught in the paint. He didn't. This is probably his worst offensive game of the season, of the exhibition season of 3, right? But he still does so much. He's still so active on defense, deflections, steals, big shot block early in the game. He's so active as a cutter. He's active as an offensive rebounder. Like, Toumani just helps. And I kind of started thinking about this when I'm watching Scoot, right? And I'm thinking, like, how does this work out? And I don't think there's any reason to like really obsess about who starts and who doesn't. Like, it doesn't really matter. It'll sort itself out to some extent, but it matters. It's not like entirely meaningless, but I don't think it's like whoever starts game 1 is like the ultimate answer or anything. But like going into the preseason, as I did a show about, should Scoot start and Toumani's fit in the starting lineup, it's clear he would be helpful there, right? And I think he has to play and has to play a bunch. And part of the like his fit in the starting lineup is people want to say like, well, start him at shooting guard. He's just going to play Toumani Camara if he's in there. He's going to play the position of Toumani Camara. Role is more important than position. Sure, he might like nominally be the shooting guard, right? But he's not going to have a ton of ball handling duties, because if it's him and Anfernee Simons next to Deni, it's going to be Deni and Ant who are the main ball handlers. He's not going to be like he's going to be a true spacer regardless, right? Like he's going to be an off-ball guy who shoots and then and shoots threes and attacks closeouts. But he's not going to be bombing away from three. That's going to have to be Jeremy Grant. The Blazers are going to be light on shooting regardless. It's not like if you put Scoot into the starting lineup as opposed to Toumani Camara, you like naturally get this magical shooting. You get a little more playmaking, a little more ball handling, but you get a lot less size and a lot less defense. And like I think Toumani's probably up until tonight was like very clearly more positively impactful if you were trying to win a singular basketball game than Scoot. But Scoot looks good enough tonight that it like changes things up. And so I went into this game kind of thinking about that because I thought like Toumani had been the standout of preseason so far for the Blazers. And it's like, well, do you just put him in the game and try to like get him 30 minutes? Maybe you still do, right? Like I'm not opposed to it. If Toumani starts, that's fine. That might make the most sense. Getting size on a lineup with Anthony Simons on the court, that might make the most sense. That might be the most functional team, and like playing the most functional, smart team might work. But like the real truth is watching Toumani is that even in a game where he didn't shoot well, and I'll give you a box score here from here. We're fine. We'll do some box score stuff from tonight. Toumani Camara 5 of 15 from the floor, and it felt like it. It felt like he missed a bunch of shots. Even on a night where he was 5 of 15 from the floor, I thought he played well. His energy is valuable. His defensive skills are valuable. He had braids to begin preseason, took his braids out, so he's rolling around with a big hair. He looks fun flying around with his hair flopping around. Like he's easy to root for, and I appreciate him, and I think he can help, and I think he will be a helpful player. But if he plays 32 minutes as a starter or 28 minutes as a dude who comes off the bench, he's going to be helpful in either of those roles, and whatever position you might think he plays, he's going to be helpful in either of those, whatever that position that might be, because he's going to play the way he does. Toumani can help, and I think tonight was another example of the way that Toumani can help. Despite going 5 of 15 from the floor, he grabs rebounds, he makes plays. He has 4 dimes, including that pass to Scoot for a 3. He's active. He's active and effective, and he's a good basketball player, and he'll help. His role, I think, is somewhat like that's why I started with this show with Scoot and Toumani. I think their roles are somewhat intertwined. If you assume that they're healthy, the Blazers are healthy, like. Toumani's going to play a lot more. I would want Toumani on the court a lot more than Matisse Thybulle, certainly than the other young wings on the bench. Like that's pretty obvious. But I guess what his ultimate role will be determined by the coaching staff, and regardless of when he plays, he'll be useful on the court. I thought this was Deni's best preseason game by a lot too. He's only played 2, right? He sat out the first game for an observance of Yom Kippur. He played Sunday, and he just looked like a dude who hadn't played in a while and was unfamiliar with his teammates. Because he was a dude who hadn't played a while and he's probably relatively unfamiliar with his teammates. He was just kind of he missed he missed a bunch of 3-pointers, and he just clunky. He just didn't look not a fluid game. You could still see some of his value, like good connective passer, competitive like on defense. It's like, but like he didn't play very well. Like I think that's true, even if you could see the positives. I think we saw a lot of what Deni brings in this game. Two things. One, Deni's going to be a monster in transition, and he's going to create those transition opportunities from whole cloth. What I mean by that is when you do have a chance to run, Deni has athleticism comes in a bunch of different ways, and Deni's athleticism is balance. That is the way his athleticism shows. He's strong and he's fast, but he uses that strength and that speed because he has such good balance. If you bump him, it doesn't matter. He got to the bucket and finished with some and one opportunities. He finished through contact. He gets himself all the way to the rim. Did it a couple times, mostly in transition, but in sometimes just off makes. He starts running off a make, catches the ball, behind half court, gets a full head of steam, and says, "You can't stop me." And particularly against the physicality that Ohm had to offer him on the wings, there was no chance. A couple times he went through Noah Essengue, who's a 17-year-old, 195-pound wing, and Deni said, "This dude can't hold me," and got himself all the way to the rim. And that's really going to help. Deni's just pedal to the metal transition, like as in actual transition plays, and creating pushes off makes, creating advantage plays because of his strength, because of his balance. I think you saw that at play here. He was really good in this game. He only played 6 minutes in the second half. Like he did his damage, and then they let him sit down because he's even at 23 a veteran on this roster. He in the first half he made 3 separate passes. One to Scoot on a designed play that was a little bit behind Scoot, but Scoot just didn't catch. One, I forget who it was to. I believe it was Toumani in the middle of the paint that would just Toumani didn't see. He didn't see it, and another that got through to I believe it was a cutting Chris Murray. But all of these passes are just, one of them was designed, but 2 of them are just off script, just little reads off script, where it's like, oh, this guy's open in the middle of the floor. I'll get it to him on a quick bounce pass. I'll make that quick read. 2 of the plays, one of the one to Scoot was just kind of a bad pass, but maybe Scoot took a bad angle, but they didn't connect. I think I don't think assigning blame there is necessarily important, but like, all of those 3 passes, one that got through and then 2 others that didn't fully cleanly connect. They're just the type of plays where you can tell Deni is making a read, and once his teammates are more comfortable with that read, once they're more comfortable knowing that if they're open, Deni's going to hit them with passes, and the types of passes that Deni looks for, and the type of little mini cuts that you can make to be available for your playmakers, like that's going to be there. Those were like plays that didn't result in anything, but all 3 of them, starred in my notebook and said those are plays that will help. Those are little Deni things. It's like, yeah, the dude he's just seeing stuff that his teammates aren't seeing. The more they play together, the more they get familiar, they'll see the stuff he sees, and he'll be getting them. Maybe not, like perfectly open shots, right? You still might catch it guarded, but like little advantages. Maybe your shoulders in front of someone, you can get to the rim. Maybe the defense has to react, and there's a second pass that comes off that first pass from Deni, and you get, you can switch sides of the floor quickly and get an unbalanced defense. Like, Deni's ability to push and transition is really valuable, and that playmaking, we haven't really seen it yet, but he's going to throw, like he threw some lobs that's like, oh, he threw a lob tonight that's like, okay, they haven't had that, and I'm really excited if Shaedon Sharpe ever gets back on the court with him. Deni pushing in transition, Shaedon running on the opposite side, a little hook lob from Deni, like, we haven't seen like crazy highlight passes from him. The lob pass to Aiden was pretty good. I think that connection will continue to get better, but like Deni's going to be a valuable playmaker on this roster. It hasn't come to full fruition, is what I'm trying to say. It hasn't come to full fruition, but it's going to, and it's going to be valuable. You could see it. Deni's, I think his handle isn't great in the half court. The shooting hasn't been there yet. Oh, it's like 2 freaking games. The shooting hasn't really been there yet, but the ability to push and transition and the connective tissue on offense and the playmaking on offense, you can see the value there. How the Blazers are able to use that, I think will be curious, but Deni clearly has a skill set that they need. And depending on what they do with the starting lineup, maybe a skill set where he's like has a lot more playmaking responsibilities. Regardless, there's going to be a bunch of lineups where Deni has a bunch of playmaking responsibilities, just because of the current state of the roster, and I think you can start to see the outlines of it. Lob to DA aside, there's little passes that are like, okay, Deni has some stuff, and once everybody figures out what that stuff is, it's going to be a lot more valuable. Okay, let's talk about the youngsters. Ulm came here with 2 first-round hopefuls in Essengue and Saraf, and I think they both showed why they might be first-round draft picks. Join me, and we'll talk draft hopefuls and 2 kids playing on 2 young teenagers playing on a German team that showed their promise in Portland this evening. Join me in that 3rd segment, won't you? First, though, I want to tell you about Hims. Changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints that are similar to Viagra and Cialis, and they're generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. Hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compound products which are not approved or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Prices vary based on product and subscription plan. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to the Locked On Blazers. Today's game was about, the Blazers getting out and playing another exhibition game and us getting a little more closer look at their guys, and Scoot Henderson playing well and Deni and Toumani showing that their value as interesting, multifaceted wings. But it was also a closer look at two youngsters. Noah Essengue, a 6'9", 200-pound wingy forward type with a bunch of athletic upside, and Ben Saraf, a 6'5" point guard, a lefty point guard with some playmaking chops and a real feel for the game. And both of them played well. Like I said, basically when we got to the second half of the game and Avdija was out and DeAndre Ayton was out, those are pretty evenly matched teams. And then Ulm just took a cajillion three-pointers. They took 46 threes to the Blazers 24, and they made 20 of them. They basically mathed their way into the game. They said, we're going to take twice as many threes as you, and that will probably help us. You take twice as many threes, you make thrice as many threes, you're going to have a shot. And they did it. They made 15 more. I guess like 5 times 4 is 20, but they made plus 15 in terms of made threes. That's how they did it. But I think Essengue and Saraf, I will say, I sit on press row. I heard Travis Demers call on the radio. He was saying Saraf on the PA system. Mark Mason was calling him Saraf, and I'm calling him Saraf based on what I've heard his name announced online. Israeli listeners, I know you're listening. I appreciate y'all. Could you help me with the pronunciation in the comments on YouTube? Just let me know, or email me lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. I am going to say Saraf for consistency purposes, but I thought Ben Saraf was pretty good. I thought his first half he looked really good. Made his first. You make your first 3, then you make another little jumper, and it's like, oh, this guy can play. And I preparing for this to watch these guys. I watched some of the YouTube highlights. I read Rafael Barlow of Locked On NBA Big Board. I read his NBA Big Board newsletter. I read ESPN's little blurbs about them. I watched a long video from Sam Vecini on the Game Theory YouTube channel. So I'd seen him a little bit, but I was very new to having appreciation for their games. And I mentioned coming into this game, it's like, I don't really want the shooting when a guy's going to take 4 or 5 jumpers to be the thing. It's like, I saw him shoot the ball 6 times, 3 of them went in, he's good. Or it's like, I saw him shoot it 6 times, only 2 of them went in, he's bad. So, Saraf went 3 of 5 from 3. I know that some of the questions about his future in the league are his shooting. When I saw him in person, the jump shots went in. I will say the part of his game that I think was underwhelming, the part of his game that was his ability to create 2-point looks inside the paint. I thought a couple times, once he just got swallowed whole like Pinocchio and Geppetto by Donovan Clingan. He drove and tried to shoot a little fadeaway, and he's like, oh, that guy's big, and Clingan just swatted it. But a couple earlier in the game where he just couldn't get totally free to get a great shot off. I thought Ryan Rupert was competitive against him defensively, particularly. The 2-point shooting left a little something to be desired, but I think his ability to handle, his feel for the game, and his ability to manipulate pick and rolls, get around a pick, get the defender on his hip, make some decisions out of that at 18 years old against an NBA team. It was clear watching him. I don't know that he's I don't know that I came away, if I had no idea, no name on the jersey type of thing, I don't know if I would come away from this game where I would say, oh yeah, that dude's a top 10 pick in the NBA. But knowing what I knew and watching him closely, I feel 18-year-old with his type of skills, I would be totally believe that he ends up as a first-round draft pick. He looked solid. Saraf, this wasn't an elite game. Had more turnovers than assists, but the ball has to go in for assists is maybe not a great measure. I thought his feel was totally fine. His ability to get to his spots. He's not like explosive athletically at all by any means, but his handle gets him where he wants to go. I just think in terms of like when it became like when the red light came on, it was like you got to get a shot off. I think some of that was where maybe his lack of like burst was exposed a little bit. But in general, it's like I thought he looked like a first round draft pick. I particularly in the first half, I'm like, yeah, that dude can play. He's good. Noah Essengue was, if Rafael Barlow wrote in his newsletter that he is a consistent jump shot away from being a potential top 5 pick. He hit 3 of 6 threes. He's in there, baby, top 5 pick. No, I don't know about all that, but I will say that Essengue was really intriguing to me. Of the two guys, I was more intrigued by Essengue. He finished with 20 points and 8 boards. Box score watching is maybe not the best way to do this. I don't think Saraf was bad by any means, but Essengue, he had a couple defensive plays, a steal that he had, and then early in the game, maybe halfway through the first quarter, Deni Avdija is coming around a screen and trying to get to his left hand and get left around a screen, and Essengue just gets in between the screener and Deni and stays attached to Deni Avdija, and it's like 6'9" with his length and ability to guard that far out on the perimeter and navigate screens. That's a basketball player, like that little play. Then like literally on the next trip, maybe it was 2 trips later, but like very, very soon after that, Deni Avdija completely overpowered him in transition, made a bucket and 1 foul. And it's like, well, welcome. But Essengue's 17. ESPN said some of his rebounding, his defensive shortcomings were the questions with him. I thought his defensive potential was very much on display. I think he has some juice there. On inside the arc, not a deeply impressive game. It's like he had buckets on putbacks and stuff like that. But I think clearly the athletic profile and just the size and the ability to hang and look totally, not even remotely out of place, like totally comfortable at age 17 in this game. It's like, yeah, I could believe he's a first round pick too. I don't think neither of these guys like wowed me. I wasn't like, yo, he has to play. But Essengue I thought was a little better than Saraf in this game in terms of like scouting impressions. And Essengue's just physical profile. He's really skinny, but he's so long and he can really move at his size. If he fills out a little bit and still has the ability to move like he can now, he's an intriguing player. I understand the intrigue that Rafael Barlow has, and I just trust Raf's opinion on this stuff. If he's really high on him, then I would generally lean in that direction as well. He's usually, if he doesn't, obviously if you scout players for a living, you're going to get stuff wrong, and Raf's definitely got stuff wrong, but he's usually in the ballpark on this stuff. Like he usually is in the ballpark on this stuff. And I thought Essengue was impressive in this game. And I thought Saraf was clearly, he didn't hurt his stock. Like if you thought he was a top 10, 15-ish pick, he might still be right in that range, because I don't think he was like a negative by any means. But he was he was right there. Both those guys were intriguing. It was fun to see them, get to see them up close and all those things. Blazers play one final preseason game Friday against the Utah Jazz, and then they will have less than a week, but basically a week to prepare for the real thing when it kicks off on October 23rd. Come back and join me for Friday's show. We'll talk a little bit about the final preseason game, and it'll be a mailbag episode. Many of you have already sent in mailbag questions, but if you want to send in more, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. That's the best place to get in touch with me. lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. I appreciate you listening to the program. Come back for tomorrow's show. Tell your friends about it. Tell your friends about it. Tell them they can get it wherever they get podcasts and also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.